age-old question about who owns the customer has come up again in 2023, surrounded by issues of technology. What can you tell us about this?
Well, I think you're right, Alandro. Traditionally, it's always very much been that the dealership owns the customer in the transaction, and they've guarded that quite closely. I've been the other side of the table a few times with some conversations with dealer councils about this topic. That's definitely changing. Certainly in the new car market, for those manufacturers who are heading down the agency route, the OEM, the manufacturer, would see that they own the customer, because actually they're invoicing the customer now for all transactions on the new car side, with the dealer just facilitating as an agent and getting a commission for that process. So that's very clear. In other areas of the relationship, obviously it differs. In the after-sales world, the relationship is with the dealership, and completely between the customer, be it a new car or a used car. Used car transactions have always been much more to do with the relationship between the retailer and the consumer, and I don't see that changing dramatically.
I think clearly the dealer has a significant role to play. Traditionally always has done. We think about our dealerships, the business that, we know people there, they provide a service, we go back and have the car serviced and repaired. But I think the effect that digital is having is that it's opening up all sorts of other avenues to the product. Yeah. So we work with OEMs, we work with dealership groups. All of this is being done digitally. I mean, the product can be acquired digitally. The finance product can be, you can research the product. You can book it in for a service, have somebody collect it. You may not visit the dealership. Some people prefer not to. So digital has changed it. I mean, the great thing for the consumer is, again, choice. And I think for the consumer, it may be changing. It may not be the dealership in their mind, perhaps. It may be something else about the digital experience they've had, whether it was, it may be the finance product that they're becoming, more aligned to, that it's, particularly if the product's portable. Yeah. So I think from a manufacturer's perspective, there are many more routes to the customer. And in other words, there are many more ways of connecting with the customer, of influencing the customer. And we try and capture this through our digital capabilities. We help manufacturers and dealer groups to connect with their customers, to convey information, to market products, so the customer is better informed and can make choices, perhaps more frequently than they would have previously made choices, and what the average cycle is for replacing a car. But with digital engagement, you've got many more touch points, so that you can influence the customer, make them aware of products and services, finance arrangements, and perhaps even encourage a transaction because, financially it would make sense to do that. So digital has had a big effect. Is that chipping away at the brand loyalty? I don't know, but I think it's presenting different products and therefore potential for loyalty to the customer, if that makes sense.
To return to the original question about who owns the customer, I suppose part of the answer is who owns the customer data, and the manufacturer is in a key position there through data collection and telematics. Is this a correct way to look at the relationship?
Well, I think in terms of data, it's probably the dealership, unless there's a finance arrangement. That's where the concentration of data would be. One's generally not transacting with the manufacturer. I wouldn't expect the manufacturer to have that much data. The digital engagement process captures a lot of data, doesn't it? So there is much more data than there would have been previously. That, as we all know, through the use of search engines, that will help to fuel an engagement process and a transaction potentially. I think it's a really important question. I mean, who owns the customer will have something to do with who's got the data, who has the personal information. I mean, it's managed and controlled clearly through regulation, which is important. But the ownership of the customer is going to become crucially important as time goes on. And that will almost certainly be where the majority of the data is about the customer.
I think the used car market is very much of, we're here to sell cars. and we make our money selling cars, especially when you go into the specialist sector that doesn't have a servicing arm to go alongside it. Because the servicing arm has very often subsidised the purchase of the new one. So you go, well, I've only made £1,000 on the purchase of the new one, but I've got 4 years of servicing going, and the margin on the servicing is a lot higher. So in that case, in the second-hand market, the finance company or their finance broker owns the customer, and is quite influential. And to the extent that they will guide, they can be very involved with the transaction, up to sourcing cars and directing towards dealerships and all that sort of thing. So it's different things for different types of transactions. And your point about telemetry is very interesting, because we talked about who owns the data. We own the data. Under GDPR, you own your own data. It's who you give it away to in various bits and pieces. But the telemetrics piece is that data is currently held by the insurance companies largely, with the black boxes that are increasingly going out saying the dangle is, we'll reduce your insurance premium. The stick is, we're getting all of your telemetry data. And if you could bundle the manufacturer having all of that, then they know, are you going under your allowance? You had 10,000, you're actually only doing 6. You will remember the days of you got a phone call from the finance company saying you were due a 4-year term. We've done the calculations based on the numbers, your last service, you're under your mileage, the market's moved a little bit, you can swap out now, 3 into 4. So I think that, I don't think will change massively, but the subscription model might change that, because people either have more flexibility than that, or less flexibility, which says, I must hold it for 3 years.
But I think the data combined with digital will facilitate it, making it easy for consumers to change. If the app on your phone knows you're exceeding or below your mileage count, it can make a recommendation, even provide, even source a car. And set up the transaction. It's just a case of saying, I think I'll do that. And that combination of the data being available in the right place and a digital experience that a consumer can engage with and make a very easy decision.
I don't think that it'll end up in any one place.
Yeah.
I think, as you rightly say, actually, the customer owns the customer data.
Yeah, the customer data, but in terms of the primary relationship,
the primary relationship, the OEMs are certainly making a stronger play for it.
Are they?
Yes. Yeah.
They're following the Tesla model, because Tesla was the first
direct to consumer.
Yeah, the first dealer that had a dealership, actually a store, in Westfield. For want of a better word, it doesn't have dealerships because it's so digital.
Yes.
And others going to the dealership becomes a shopping experience. Not, again, COVID, people started buying cars without ever test driving them. I think the test drive is increasingly, goes back to your quality bit as well, the test drive is increasingly dead. Why do you need to go for a test drive? You've got so much digital data to be able to go, I've seen the hundreds of car reviews on that particular model. So I've seen other people's opinions, which are largely similar. I know what the brand values are. So the test drive is nearly dead. I bought my last car without test driving it. I bought my wife's car without test driving. So if you strip the test drive out, you don't need the physical things around. You need one. So they come up and sit in there and go, do I feel comfortable? Has it got enough space for me and my children or whatever?
And sense the material quality and that sort of thing.
So I think digital will continue to evolve that piece.
Yes.
But I think it's not one yet.
Yes.